Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video today, I wanted to talk about triangulation. And this is something that if you've dealt with a narcissist, this is definitely something that you have experienced or will experience at some point. It's one of their tools to maintain control, manipulate, and basically what triangulation is, it's where the narcissist brings in another person into the dynamic and they make you vie for their attention. So this could be a friendship, this could be the new supply, whatever the case may be. And, my ex did this um, more than one way. He had friends where he would sort of ignore me and pay a ton of attention to the friend and then make me feel jealous, paranoid. You cling to the narcissist because you're kind of like, okay, wait a minute. You used to give me a ton of attention and now you're not doing that anymore. You're giving a bunch of attention to this new friend or this acquaintance or whatever the case may be. And you get really jealous. And that's the whole point. That's what they're after. They want to hurt you. They want to manipulate. All they want to do is play games. And they want to make you fight for their attention, their affection, their love, even though they're not capable of love. But that's what the whole thing of triangulation is all about. So my ex would do this with friends. And, in the idealization phase, AKA love bombing, in the beginning, he was pretty much like up my ass. So that's when they're lovey-dovey, they're writing you poems, they're possibly buying you gifts, just whining and dining you, wooing you, appearing super romantic and totally amazing, pretty much your soulmate wrapped up in a pretty bow. I mean, anything that you could ever want, that's what the narcissist is. I mean, well, that's what they pretend to be and present to you. So you get used to that and that becomes normal. That's the beginning of your relationship. So that's all you know of the narcissist. They're sweet and romantic and amazing and just lovey-dovey and just literally Prince Charming. So that's normal to you. That's your everyday life. And then suddenly the narcissist starts to devaluate you. And once you go into the devaluation, that's when they act like an ass. They cut off emotions, intimacy, attention, all of that stuff. They're no longer sitting there whining and dining you and love bombing you and making you feel beautiful and making you feel just perfect. I mean, they literally will tell you like 100 times a day how much they love you and how perfect you are. And suddenly they're not doing that anymore. And you totally, obviously you recognize this shift. It's extremely obvious because they're all of a sudden acting the opposite of how they have been the entire relationship. So right away, when the narcissist starts the devaluation and they start pulling away, you notice it. And it just feels like the rug has been pulled out from underneath you. It just feels like this sudden, it's just like your heart is ripped out. I mean, obviously, we can all relate to that feeling because we've all been devalued if we've been in a relationship with a narcissist or somebody who is at least a cluster B personality disordered person. And you know how that feels. It's just like everything's perfect and then boom, it's like you're on your ass and everything is just pulled out from underneath you. You don't really know what's going on. You're kind of like, why are they acting different? What the hell is happening? And then it's at this point when they introduce the triangulation. So now to twist the knife in even more, aside from not giving you attention and affection, they're not being romantic or loving, you're not getting the poems and the romantic cards and all of those kind of things that, the narcissist used to do. So now you're sitting here not really getting any attention. You're very confused, and they love to keep you in a state of confusion because it just makes you fight harder for their love and attention, and that's what they want. During the love bombing, That's just to manipulate you and give you enough until they can get you in their clutches. The part where they really start having fun is in the devaluation and the discarding. That's what they like to do. That's what gets them off. So now they get to have their fun. And all of this is designed to basically make you question yourself, doubt yourself, feel not good enough, fight for their love and attention and affections. Um, During love bombing, they're the ones who almost chase after you. They're very persistent. They really want to get you. They want to get you in the relationship. They want to lock you down. They want to move in right away, possibly get engaged or even getting married. I've heard of people getting married within a few weeks of even meeting or knowing the narcissist because everything is lightning speed with them. Once they lock you down into this relationship with them, now they know they have you. So now they can fuck with you and manipulate you and do all of their games. That's where the triangulation comes in. So my ex did this crap to me, and all of a sudden he was distant. I didn't really know what the hell was going on, but he wasn't the person he used to be. He wasn't like romantic and lovey-dovey. Then all of a sudden he starts giving his attention to other people. And this is very noticeable to you because you're kind of like, okay, how is it that, and the narcissist will probably tell you because, you'll probably ask the narcissist, like, what's going on? How come you seem distant? Why do you seem angry at me? Or why do you seem different? Why are you pulling away? What's going on? And they'll have some bullshit story that they'll tell you. They'll say that, oh, they're stressed or they're just tired or, blah, 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 whatever. They'll come up with, oh, something's going on at work. Whatever nonsense excuse they'll come up with, but it's a lie and it's totally lame. If you listen to my other videos, I mentioned this in there. I talk about how he was, when he started pulling away and being distant, I thought he had PTSD. So in my other videos, I discuss this more and I talk about how, literally for the entire relationship, mind you, he told me that he was an Iraq combat vet. And he told me he had done 3.5 tours in Iraq and he was injured and he had PTSD from it. So when he started pulling away with me and he was like, not being affectionate and just sort of being angry, that was one of the things I noticed is he just seemed really pissed off all the time. And I didn't really know like what was going on. He seemed depressed and just totally different. It was like flipping a switch. I mean, it really is Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, it's crazy how these people can flip-flop personalities. And I attributed his personality changes and his pulling away. I thought that it was because of PTSD. I actually joined a PTSD support group for spouses and girlfriends of combat veterans. And a lot of his symptoms seemed to sort of go along with what these other women were saying. They were angry all the time. They were depressed. They were just emotionally shut down. They weren't interested in sex. They had a hard time being intimate. And it really sort of went with how he was acting. So I totally bought into his PTSD/Iraq story. And I discuss this in my other videos. Of course, I come to find out it was all a big lie. And he was never in Iraq. He did not have combat PTSD. And he literally made the whole thing up because he was a pathological liar. It was him. It was his way, as we know, narcissists like to be the hero and the victim at the same time. So he was the Iraq war hero. And of course, he told me he had 2 Purple Hearts. So that that went with his hero story too. He said he had 2 Purple Hearts and, he had shrapnel in them and he was all wounded and he had PTSD. So he's like this badass war hero who has these Purple Hearts and he just went into battle and just, fought for his country and was basically a real hero. And then he was also the victim because now he has these injuries and he's not the same person he used to be. And he pretty much needs somebody to care for him and all that. So it fit in with his bullshit hero/victim story, but it was all lies. So anyways, when he starts pulling away and doing this crap, I'm thinking, oh, it's his PTSD. I'm in support groups. I'm reading books about PTSD. And then through all of that, I kind of was like, some of these symptoms don't really sound like him. Some of these things don't really make sense. And I really started thinking he was bipolar or even schizophrenic. I really started to think he was lying about a lot of things. I started digging into his story. Stuff didn't add up. So I knew something was wrong with him, but I didn't know what. Of course, now he's a narcissist, of course, but at the time, it just didn't make sense. But so he's pulling away and being cold and distant. I'm thinking there's a rational reason for this. At the same time, he starts giving attention to friends and acquaintances. And I'm sitting here like, wait a minute. You know, you're saying how you're depressed and, you're just antisocial in general, and it's nothing against me personally. And it's just hard for you to sort of open up and be close to people right now. But yet here you are giving attention to these people, and it just didn't make sense. So it starts to mess with your head, and you start thinking that maybe you're the problem. And he's not antisocial. He just doesn't want to be close to you. So the triangulation makes you fight harder for their attention because that's what it's all about. So you start to get jealous of whoever they're paying attention to. You get angry and, you start fighting harder for their attention. And they just eat that up because they feel like the prized commodity. And here's two people going to war with each other over him. And it just blows up his own narcissistic ego and makes him feel even more amazing. And so that's literally what it all comes down to. With triangulation, they can also do this after the relationship is over. My ex did this with me where we broke up. Like 2 days later, he had a new supply that he met in rehab. And he gets out of rehab and he's calling her his wife. So he was in rehab for 90 days. And the morning he left for rehab, he was telling me he loved me and he hopes that we could get back together and he's going to change and make things right. He doesn't want me to find anybody else when he's gone, blah, blah, blah. And 90 days later, he comes out with his fiance, and he was referring to her as his wife, and he had hooked up with her in rehab. So he gets out, and he still had a bunch of things at my house because he was living with me until he left for rehab. So all of his crap, everything, his, family ashes, clothing, everything he owns is at my house. So he has to come over to get it. So, he gets out of rehab and he calls me up and he just kind of acts like, oh, let's be friends. I kind of want to make amends to you, blah, blah, blah. So he's telling me that like he's changed and he's trying to act like, he's sorry for everything and blah, blah, blah. And then of course he talks about the new girlfriend. She's amazing. And with her, he's sober and he's telling the truth and he's being honest. And he was basically trying to make me believe that with her, he was being everything he wasn't for me. And even though me and him weren't back together, I mean, me and him were in the relationship, he was still triangulating me with her because he was still comparing me to her and, acting like she's so amazing and she's so great and I'm a changed man for her. And it's to mess with your head to make you feel like, wow, why couldn't you have been that way for me? Why couldn't you have done these things in our relationship? And now you're doing them in your relationship with her. And it just really makes you question yourself and doubt yourself and feel like crap about yourself. And that is literally what it all comes down to. A lot of times, if you were a good source of supply, even though you're broken up now because perhaps you dumped the narcissist or they broke up with you, they shacked up with a new supply. And maybe within a few months or so, the narcissist realized that the new supply isn't everything he thought she would be. And maybe she's not exactly living up to the narcissistic expectations. Maybe you're better off than her. Maybe you have your own place, or maybe you have transportation. Maybe you have money or a great career. And this woman doesn't have those things. And he's having a harder time manipulating her and getting things out of her. So he potentially wants to come back to you. So he might, triangulate you with the new supply, with trying to get back in a relationship with you as well by telling you maybe negative things about the new supply. Whereas with me and my ex, he was trying to tell me wonderful things about the new supply. But then, maybe they'll tell you bad things too. They'll say, oh, she does this and it gets on my nerves, or she doesn't do this the way you did. And they'll make you feel better than the new supply. And they'll make you feel like, wow, like he's finally realizing everything I did for him, or he's realizing how much I cared about him, or, blah, blah, blah. But it's just all part of the nonsense. It's to give you false hope that maybe, he'll come back to you, the relationship can rekindle, that maybe he really does love you and he doesn't really love this new person. It's all lies and BS. This is all triangulation. So all of these examples fall under the triangulation umbrella. And of course, my ex did both. When we were together, he, would ignore me and then give attention to his friends. And so there would be sort of like these friendship triangulations. And a lot of times they do this with women, like in my ex's case, his friends were men, but a lot of times they'll have friends that are girls and they'll say, oh, she's just a friend, she's just a friend. But they'll give her time and attention and talk about how amazing she is to make you jealous and doubt yourself, beat yourself up. Um, so he did that. And then also when we broke up, he tried to triangulate me with the new supply by sort of telling me how wonderful she was, just, make me feel like crap about myself and make me think like, wow, it maybe the problem really was me. And then he also talked negative about the new supply. Once the new supply had a boundary for him, he was a drug addict and he got out of rehab. And within a month of getting out of rehab, he overdosed on heroin at her house. And her roommates and her threw him out. So he was angry. He felt like because she had put a boundary in place, suddenly she wasn't the perfect new supply, the shiny new toy that he thought she was. So he calls me up and starts bad mouthing her and saying she was with me for money. She wanted me to pay to get her nails done. I had to pay her rent, but then her whole paycheck she just got to keep for herself and blah, blah, blah. And he was trying to say negative things about her, that she didn't really care about him or that she wasn't how I used to be. And he actually said that. He said, this is a one-sided relationship. And now I understand how you felt because you had to do all the work. And I feel like that's what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. So he was acting like he understood how I felt and that, he realized he made a mistake getting with her and said that the whole relationship felt like a chore to him now and all of this. So all of these are triangulation. They will do this. They will triangulate you with children, friends, the new supply, old supply before you. Sometimes they'll triangulate you with the girl they used to date. They'll even triangulate you with pets. So my ex did that as well. We had a dog together and he would walk in the door and I'd be sitting there and he would totally ignore me. And then he would like kiss the dog and be over the top affectionate with the dog and be like, jumping around and kissing and just playing with the dog and, all of this. And I'd be sitting there for like 10 minutes waiting for him to get done to even acknowledge my existence. And then he would just give me like a little peck. And, so they'll even do this with pets. I mean, triangulation is all about messing with your self-esteem, your self-worth, making you feel like shit about yourself, making you fight harder for their attention because they put their attention elsewhere to make you feel inadequate so that you fight harder to get their attention again. And that's what it's all about. It's about their ego. They don't care about you. They don't care about the new supply. They don't care about the old supply. They don't care about the kids. They don't care about the pets. They don't care about whoever they're triangulating you with. It has nothing to do with it. It's literally just about getting fuel. They want fuel from multiple sources, and with triangulation, they get that. So before this video gets too crazy long, hopefully this was somewhat helpful if maybe you didn't really know if you were being triangulated or not, or if you weren't really sure what triangulation was. If you ever have dated a narcissist, or even if you were just friends with one, whatever, I think you can definitely relate to triangulation. It is something that every single narcissist will do. So at some point, you will deal with that in your relationship with that person. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below in this video. If you have any requests for videos to talk about certain topics, go ahead and let me know, and then I will try to make that video for you. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.